I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Lene Samuelsen. Lene is relatively new to the Schibsted management team with the enviable title as Executive Vice President for Communications and CSR. Lene has, however, worked for most of her career in the publishing industry as a journalist and also as editor-in-chief of Svenska Dagbladet, one of Sweden's biggest daily newspapers, with a well-known and well-renowned business edition, SvD Näringsliv. I'm sure I didn't say that properly in Swedish, but you'll forgive me. Lene has also worked at Aftonbladet in Sweden for many years and sits on the board of Schibsted in Norway, also a Netsted in Sweden called Hitta.se and 20 Minutos in Spain. Schibsted, for those of you who don't know, is one of the Nordics' largest media concerns, with revenues of 15.3 billion just last year, so they're pretty big. Responsibility and credibility are values that they say are deeply entrenched in their corporate culture. They also say that Schibsted has a social mission and that this social mission is a fundamental value for the group. But is Schibsted leading the way to taking social action? Please welcome Lene Samuelsen, who will talk about empowering people and business in the digital age.
Thank you all. I'm very glad to be here for this great day of inspiration. And I already had some fantastic inspiration, not the least from Hannah. As a journalist, I know something about the power of the pen, and I think that's a fantastic story she has to tell. I want to share some of what we do and a view on CSR. First, I'd like to introduce you to some of the great people that I work with within the Schibsted group. These are all pictures of people of Schibsted. There are many different things. There are journalists, and they are entrepreneurs, they are developers, and they are visionaries. And they are also photographers. This is Aladdin. And that is not a lamp in his hands. He's 9 years old, and he spends his days just 50 meters away from the shooting and fighting in Aleppo, Syria, where he collects ammunition to sell as metal to get some pennies for his family. This is Danya. She's 11, and she was playing in her family's garden when a grenade hit. She was taken to hospital and she survived. She could leave that hospital only a few hours later. But later, that last hospital was bombed. Those pictures were taken by a colleague of mine in Aftonbladet, photojournalist Niklas Hammarström. He's himself the father of 3 children, and yet he goes to the most dangerous places in the world. Why? I feel someone has to tell the story of the children caught in the madness of war, he says. The 3rd time Niklas went to Syria, he was taken prisoner. He was shot, and he was held captive for 46 days. When he came home, I asked him, was it worth it? Was it really worth it? And he replied, it has to be, because someone has to tell the story. Janne Eliassen had a story that was untold for many years. Her whole life, she had tried to tell about the horrors that happened to her when she was growing up, to seek help, but society failed her again and again. Then everything fell apart, and today she sits in a wheelchair. She has a brain damage from years of abuse and neglect. And no one really knew how she ended up in this situation, not even Janne herself. But piece by piece, the newspaper Bergens Tidende solved the mystery that was Janne's story. And this time she was finally heard. With over 1 million page views, this story is the most read online story in Norway. The driver for journalists and for journalism is the dream of change. That what you do is so important and so strong that you can actually change the world. And the driver for entrepreneurs is the dream of change. That your idea, your innovation, will be so good and so widely used that it will actually change the world. Schibsted classified site Blocket has been awarded the Swedish recycling industry's Inspirational Award. Why? Because Blocket has actually accomplished something fantastic. They have created a marketplace for people to buy and sell used goods peer-to-peer instead of buying new stuff. And the effect of that is tremendous. In Sweden alone, the trade on Blocket saves the equivalent of 1.6 million tons of carbon dioxide. And that's like all the traffic in Stockholm standing still for a year and a half. And then if you like, make the calculation that Schibsted classified sites like Blocket or Finn in Norway operates in nearly 30 countries today. Can you imagine the impact that is possible from that on the environment and on our consumer behaviors? Lendo here, that's a marketplace for unsecured loans and part of Schibsted growth. The entrepreneur, Dennis, behind this, he had a vision of making something that was previously closed, transparent for consumers, transferring, if you like, the power from the old finance institutions to the consumer and loan taker. And the impact of this is actually so interesting that it's the focus of research from the National Bank, because the hypothesis is that Lendo contributes to society with this idea by lowering the interest cost for households and thereby making them more equipped to spend money on consume goods and services, and that will in turn create jobs. InfoJobs is a Spanish site for job ads, but that's not what they do if you ask them. They say, we help people change their lives. The unemployment rate in Spain is about 26%, and the job search is a big and stressful challenge for many people. And InfoJobs wanted to change that. They wanted to figure out the problem of unemployment. So what they did, they invented an initiative called Preparate in the middle here. It's a collaborative project led by InfoJobs, where HR professionals and coaches offer voluntarily their help or knowledge to unemployed people in the job searching process. And so far, InfoJobs in Spain have helped more than 28,000 people who are unemployed. Svenska Dagbladet, my own newspaper here on the right, just yesterday launched a program called Read and Write, aiming to help thousands of teachers in Sweden to improve the teaching for the students. So in Schibsted, we are journalists and we are entrepreneurs, and we share a dream of change. We hope to make life a little bit easier and the world a little bit better. We have stated a mission that we feel embraces everything that we do, and I believe it's crucial to view CSR as part of the whole business and to try to activate individuals. Our view on CSR is closely linked to our core business and to our mission of empowering people in their daily life. Now, what does it mean? Our media houses are essential to democracy and do enable people to be stronger and more informed citizens by providing knowledge, arenas for exchanging ideas and opinion. And we do defend freedom of the press and editorial integrity at a time when pressure is hard in the media business. Our marketplaces affect the way we consume things and thereby the environment. By consuming used goods and sharing, you contribute to a more sustainable society. New services are targeted towards strengthening the consumer by creating marketplaces for loans and energy and insurance and more. Yesterday, on the 14th of May, 154 years ago, Christian Schibsted started the presses in his printing house in Oslo here with his Vision, a newspaper. He was faced with the loss of his biggest customer, so he decided to become his own customer and to create a modern arena for news and exchange of ideas and products and services. And it was an important platform for a democratic society and a daily help in the everyday life of his readers. So Aftenposten was born. In 1913 enters a new woman in our history, Lene Schibsted, the respected leader of Aftenposten for many years. She was an entrepreneur when it comes to social responsibility, being the first woman in a position like this in media in Norway. And she ruled firmly, but she also delegated power to entrusted employees. And she introduced a new perspective on social rights like vacation, and she stood up for editorial independence. So we have a proud legacy that guides us today and into the future. Now, Schibsted has changed during the years. We've come a long way, but in some ways we haven't changed at all. Today, it's a diverse and colorful and global media group, and it's on a scale that Christian or Trine couldn't imagine. In almost 30 countries, with almost 7,000 people, and we reach more than 100 million people with our services. And that's a great responsibility and a fantastic opportunity. It's an ecosystem of people. But we are still based on the idea of why we are here and what our purpose is, to empowering people in their daily life. Our view on CSR is based on that, and we phrase it like this: how we care about our own people and the world around us. Looking at your business from a CSR perspective, there is one thing you have to ask yourself, really. Are you doing good, or are you just minimizing the bad? Now, something happens when you start applying a global cost-benefit perspective on your business. All companies create negative items in such a global balance sheet. Could be the environment, financial risk, people's health, the redistribution of wealth. And many, but not all, companies create positive items in such a balance sheet, improving relations between people, stimulating education, saving lives, providing food. Now, our philosophy is that we must naturally take responsibility and minimize the bad. And naturally, we comply with regulatory requirements, global policies, and we strongly support industry initiatives. Responsible business is our absolute ambition, and we think it's closely linked to innovation. But our state of mind goes beyond that. We would also like to focus on how much good we can create, on the opportunities. So we want to be a company that is leading edge in minimizing the bad and maximizing the good. We believe that empowering people is socially responsible, and that by staying true to our mission, we are honoring our social responsibility as a corporation. And that the drivers in journalism, in entrepreneurship, in innovation can help us do that. Now, let me share a thought about the future, a question really. We're in the middle of the digital transformation. Everybody talks about it, and nobody really knows what it is or what it will be. But what if the change in the way we live, behave, interact, and learn is greater that we can imagine, that it's fundamental, that the change in society that we see today is the beginning of a complete turn, like industrialism was, the beginning of a new era. Now, every great revolution has a number of social and commercial and technological factors that come together, or the nexus of forces. They create change and innovation, like the spinning jenny or the internet. But every great revolution also has a number of consequences. And if we look at the Industrial Revolution and what changes emerged after that, it led to many good things and welfare, but it also led to a divided world, where those who could join and be part of the new age benefited, profited from it, gained knowledge and new opportunities, and where those who did not have the means, who were not invited, were not offered the possibilities, were left on the side. And we became divided by class, geography, and gender. Now, what if that's what we're facing again? We know that there are forces at play here that will fundamentally change everything we do, how we interact, how we do business, how we acquire information. We have yet to discover exactly how. Who will the new capitalists be? What new opportunities lie in the future? Who will have the power and who will not? What if some people will have the resources and the means and can join, and some have not? What if once again the world is divided in a new unforeseen way? What then is our social responsibility? Is it perhaps to invite as many people as possible to join the digital transformation? For us in Schibsted, our mission is the same. Our contribution to society, is it exactly the same, what it has always been? To empower people? I think so. I strongly believe so. I think that all of you here today have that engagement and the vision of a changed and better world, and how to create that in that context, how to get as many people as possible on board to take part. For us, it's a question of being a driving force in the digital transformation and to create innovative, high-quality and user-friendly products, to share knowledge, to give more people a chance to interact and to be part. Whether it's through news or marketplaces or services, to see it as our mission to get as many people as possible on board and to drive the innovation, the entrepreneurship and the new ideas. And I believe that that's something that both Christian and Trine Schibsted would have been proud of, and something we can all be proud of. And imagine if all of us together could do something like that. I believe this is all about people. This is all about us and how we choose to act today and in the future. I believe that corporate social responsibility is not an initiative, it's a state of mind. It's something that has to be upheld by every individual. Nobody knows where the world is going, but I'd like to think that we have an idea, that we can do more good than bad, and that we have the power to drive change and the ability to empower people to think and reflect and to act and to create and be part of not only the digital transformation, but of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The one thing I really have to thank you for are those strong visuals, yeah? And the stories from Syria, because I think Syria is really a tremendous social injustice, and this is where we need the media powerhouses to bring it out, yeah, to let everyone know, so that we can also hopefully go in and help. So that was absolutely amazing. But let's go back to the digital.
Yeah.
Because there was a really good article in Aftenposten, I think it was last week, talking about how Schibsted is one of the winners when it comes to the digital divide. So you guys are doing relatively well compared to some of your competitors. But your goal is that this year you want 50% of your revenues to come from digital sources. What kind of research? How are you sort of putting action to what you're saying? You know, that you're using the digital sources to make more social good?
I believe it's all about the core that I spoke about staying true to your mission and really having CSR and your mission closely embedded in your strategy and in your business plans. And I believe it is possible to use the digital transformation as an arena for something really new and exciting and lots of new opportunities out there. So I think it's not a question of us changing really. Maybe it's a question of staying true to what you believe and see the new opportunities when things like the digital world is changing.
What would you say are sort of the key drivers for the Schibsted social mission? A lot of people do it for branding. A lot of people do it for a moral perspective. Some people even think that there is a profit motive in it. Well, what is it for Schibsted?
I think that I'm fairly new in this in the arena of CSR, and I have to be humble about that. But I think it's for us, it's not something you put on as a branding or something like that. When I try to look at Schibsted and ask myself about this, are we doing good for society, for environment? And I feel that I can proudly say, yes, actually we are. We do a lot of things that have a bad impact, I'm sure. But most of all, we do things that have a good impact. And then I believe whether you call that CSR or strategy or, you know, it's what we do.
So it's just what you do, yeah?
I think so.
One thing, we also talked on the phone a little bit, and I was a little bit interested because a journalist that suddenly starts working as responsible for CSR, for me that was a little interesting. But you said it was your passion, and yeah, explain.
I think the passion of journalism, as I said, is really to try to do something good and to change. We want to expose injustices. We want to give power to those who have not. And we want to show the world as it actually is. And I think those drivers I can apply in my new job. And I think within Schibsted and definitely also outside Schibsted, there are a lot of very engaging things going on from that kind of perspective. So I'm just...
You're lucky.
I'm lucky.
You're lucky.
Yes, I'm very lucky.
Very lucky. So thank you so much. And have a seat and
Thank you.
join us for the panel discussion.